distraught father threatens to kill the man convicted of murdering his 5-year-old son. It's all part of a gut-wrenching radio interview prompted by news that his child's killer could be free in a few short months. Michael Woodmansee could walk out of prison 12 years earlier than expected, and he'd be free to move into any neighborhood anywhere in America. Now, Jason Foreman disappeared in 1975, but an arrest didn't happen for another 8 years. That's when Woodmansee was questioned about an attack on another boy and then confessed to Jason's murder. His 40-year sentence was part of a plea deal, but now he's scheduled to be released 12 years early this August because of such good behavior while he was locked up. Let's take a listen to Jason's dad reacting to the news on WPRO Radio.
I do intend, if this man is released anywhere in my vicinity, or if I can find him after the fact, I do intend to kill this man. And I just need that other information so I can kill him as aggressively and as painfully as he killed my son.
Now, this is obviously a pained man who understandably wants justice for a young son he was just getting to know at age 5. Join me now, the reporter who did that interview, John DePietro with WPRO in Rhode Island. Also joining us tonight, special guest Mark Lunsford. His daughter, Jessica, was killed by a convicted sex offender. Thank you both for being here. Mark, I want to begin with you because everyone that hears this story and hears this man vowing to kill his son's murderer if and when he gets released from prison understands it. But they don't understand it, I don't think, as well as someone like you could understand it and try to explain the emotion of what it would do to a father if your child's killer gets out of prison early for good behavior.
You couldn't expect anything less than a father to be so angry as a man getting out of prison for killing his child. I mean, you say this man's going to get out on good behavior. There is no children in prison. It's just appalling. I mean, Rhode Island needs to stand up to its system. Legislators, whether it's legislation needs to be changed, the Constitution needs to be worked on. I mean, this man took a 5-year-old little boy's life, took his life from him, and then you're going to release him, and how could you expect the father to react any different than to want this man dead? If something happens to that man, if this man dies, then it's the system's fault that made it happen. It'd be the system that puts the man in prison that kills this guy. What kind of system are we working with?
John DePietro from WPRO AM radio in Rhode Island, you interviewed this father. As you're speaking to him, tell me what's going through your mind as you speak to a guy who has lived such a painful, painful life and lost his son and now gets word that the killer may be released?
Vinny, there was so much emotion with John Foreman. Keep in mind, this was also torturous, where this little boy was missing for 7 years. Turned their life upside down, turned the community upside down. John Foreman developed a drinking problem, then to find out that he was tortured, murdered, and then even his remains kept like a trophy with this animal down the street. It was too much. He had never spoken out before. His late wife was the one that used to speak for the family. I don't blame him. It was just, he is a man at the end of his rope that cannot believe that this monster, this demented, inhumane person is going to be allowed out of prison 12 years early. When back, he thought he was going to get 50 years. Then he thought at least he'd get 40 years. He never dreamed that by going with the plea bargain, that this monster would be let out after just 28 years. He's just going to be 52 years out.
12 years shaved off for doing what? Just not getting into trouble in prison? Take a listen to part of the interview. I want to play this for everyone at home because it's compelling stuff. John Foreman on WPRO Radio. Take a listen to him here talking about the 7 years when his son was gone and he had no idea what had happened.
It was a terrible, terrible 7 years. My family didn't have a life because of that. I wasn't there for my family. I was trying to find him, and I was trying to get it out of my mind at the same time. And what has happened is all these years after he put away, it was finally I had some relief. I quit drinking, and I got it out of my mind, and now it's all back to hit me again.
Mark, when your child is murdered, it it absolutely devastates a family. And I don't know if it can be put into words, and I think John Foreman is doing a very good job here. Mark, what would you say if you had an opportunity to sit down with John Foreman today, the man whose child's killer may be released in August? What would that conversation, what would you talk to him about? Because I know you've been very outspoken on this issue, and what sort of words of encouragement could you give him to help him through this time?
I don't think there is any words of encouragement. Every parent that I've ever met, or every parent that's ever met me that's lost a child, none of us know what to say to each other. There's no words to make you feel any better. There's no words to make things easier to help you get through it. It's just an awful feeling that you have to live with. And now to have to live with something like this, I mean, you can't blame this man for how he feels or for what he does. But the problem is that the system won't do anything about it. So you cast this individual back out into society, and when society lashes out at this man for killing this little boy because you turned him loose, then you're going to convict someone else? Why don't you just keep this guy in prison? I mean, I understand why prosecutors make plea deals so families don't have to hear or see the horrifying, gruesome details of a case. But after this much time, I assure you that Mr. Foreman knows the